So love who you love, love don't care anyhow. It don't care if you're black or white. Don't care if you're young or old. Love don't care if you're rich or poor. And you need somebody to hold.
Greetings and salutations. It is black, white, left, right. I'm the black guy.
I am still the white guy and losing even more of my tan as the winter months goes on, but you still look nice and tan.
Oh, absolutely. It's a perpetual
Yeah,
tan, brother. And of
I
course,
hear
I'm
you,
on the
man.
left and he is on the right. Of course, we discuss topics, everything that's going on in the world today from a perspective of the right and the black side and the left and also the white side. So you might get some different views, you may get some similar views, but either way, it's going to be inventive and it's going to be interesting. So welcome back,
Yeah.
Mike. Dude, how you feeling?
Feeling pretty good, man. Got a little re-energized. Did a little traveling for Valentine's up to Charlotte, and buddy of mine hooked me up in this wonderful steakhouse up there. Got to see my girl. Mostly just working, man, getting ready to pay these confiscatory taxes that are going to hit us next month. So
Well, hey, with
gotta
the
get all
shakeup
that
going
ready.
on, I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off. With the shakeup going on in Washington, man, who knows? The IRS might be defunct by the time April rolls
Well,
around. So
there's there's been some ramblings that instead of we'll go back to how things were, over 100 years ago, where they had basically just all the income that was brought into the United States was based on taxing or tariffing things rather than income taxes, which would be amazing. I'm not sure how that would all work. Obviously, we would pay a lot more for things we buy, but we wouldn't be we wouldn't be giving our money to the government, and we can pick and choose where we spend it. At least some of us. I mean, some people don't send very much to the government, but it is what it is. I, that would be a huge thing. It seems like Trump's trying to do some huge things with. He's basically got 2 years to do whatever he's going to do. So we'll see how that all works out. You sent me a list over this time, and I thought, man, your selections were pretty good for this week. So I'm going to turn it over to you, man, and let you tee us up for the topics of the show today. So let's hear what we got, man.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Number one on the list is a
Yep.
topic that is near and dear, I think, to a lot of Americans, especially Black Americans. I'm sure there's a differing of opinions, possibly from your side of the ledger, and that surrounds reparations. I know this is a topic that has been bandied about for many, many years, and every once in a while there'll be a resurgence of the reparations talk, then it'll die down a little bit, then a resurgence. Um, Obviously, it's
Right.
a hot button topic, something that really needs to be addressed at some point, and hopefully, with this new administration, they will give it the attention that it deserves, and make a rightful decision when it comes to reparations. So, for those of you out there who don't know what reparations is all about, I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but at the same time,
Yeah.
try to be a little bit more informative when it comes to this hot button topic. That being said, reparations. All right. America, of course, is no secret, was built on the backs of free labor. The majority of that free labor, people who look like me, black folks, slaves. And free labor, they were never paid at any time for all the work, toil that they put into building this country. And we feel, and the outcry is that our ancestors who were forced to build this nation, who were raped, murdered, and everything that went along with it, there should be some compensation for that for their ancestors, since they didn't get a chance to be compensated for their work. Their ancestors need to be repaired, hence the term reparations, and the American government needs to pony up. So that being said, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to put the ball in your court and let you riff on it, and then I'm going to come back and tell you why you're wrong.
Uh, okay. Well, me being white, I thought about this subject quite a bit to to maybe expand your view of it and put things in context. But, I know that like the Nation of Islam, and you have that side of you. It seems like it's at least from knowing you and you speaking about things, and maybe a little bit of the Black Panthers side of you. That whole push in the 70s for resurging this. You're pretty set probably in your mentality on this, but I am white, and I've never owned any slaves. I do have relatives who came over who were not American when they came over, my grandparents, at least on that side of my dad's side. So my heritage, if you want to call it that, I feel like I'm American. I don't have any ties to Lithuania at all, but my crazy last name and my heritage is Lithuanian, which is this small country kind of between Poland and Russia. And I'll get into why I'm bringing that up later. But the problem that, first of all, this administration, I don't know that I've heard anything about them going to do anything with this similar to the Biden administration. Even though you had a fully Democrat president, Senate, and House for at least 2 years during that, I think, January 2021 to 2023. And I can't remember when wasn't his name John Conyers? He was the Georgia rep that kept introducing that House Bill 40. I mean, he did it like year after year after year, every year. I mean, it was one of his things. And, God bless him. John Conyers passed away. And so he handed this off to Sheila Jackson Lee, quite vocal about certain things. So she has been the one, at least the last 2 times, who has introduced this House Bill 40. And where we're at with this, as far as I can see, is as a nation, just to get this part out of the way, as far as not a nation, but as the government side of it, is that it's languishing in what they would call a exploratory committee, or there's a word for it. What this bill simply does is put together a commission to research things like who are the ancestors, and try to figure out what this looks like economically, and determine where the money would come from and all this and that. It's sort of like a hey, we have this thing that Black Americans it's not there. There's a large number of them, and I would say probably well over 80% of them that are here in this nation are in some way descendant from slaves. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it's not like we've had 40 million Black people, come in from immigration. I mean, almost everybody. I don't know about you personally, but I would say most people do have. I mean, you're not like your parents aren't from Jamaica or something, or they came over, right?
I
Right.
mean,
So
if you really want to know, actually, my lady friend, whom I'm dating now, is
yeah, I got you.
Nigerian,
Okay.
and I learned some information from her because she could basically tell me where I'm from based on my features, my facial
Oh,
features,
cool. There's people that
everything.
can do that. That's
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
it's amazing,
Yeah,
and it's pretty accurate too. But based on the information that I gave her, we can trace my lineage to the Ivory Coast.
I got you. But you don't have your great 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 granddad wasn't on some plantation somewhere. But a lot of Black
Oh
people
yeah,
that they could
oh,
trace
yeah,
back.
yeah. I'm descended from slaves. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. What I'm trying to get at is most are. So I would say, a large number of people. It's not like it's going to be 6 million people who are direct, you know, descendants or something, and you're trying to figure out, well, how much money do you give these people, and if each of those people has $1 million, let's say, or something, then that's a smaller number than 40 million or whatever the number is. I'm just throwing these out there. Even 6 million is a huge amount of money, depending on how much you're wanting to say. So it all gets down to who gets the money, how much you're going to give them, where does this money come from, and the people that are putting money into the pot, is it their fault? You're taking money from person X and you're saying to them, you only have this because this happened something 200 something years ago, and is this something uniquely American, something that uniquely happened? That, and I can personally say, well, neither, I wasn't here, and half of my family wasn't here. I'd have no clue whether or not anybody on the farm that my mom grew up in had slaves or anything about that. So it becomes a really, really, really political hot potato, which is why the Biden administration didn't really move forward with this. People tend to put out these bills, and I'm not saying they don't have something in their heart for it, but they know the appearance of doing something looks really good during election times. But the actual getting the meat on the bone, moving things, is where it becomes a problem. But I'm white, so I'm looking at this and I'm comparing American history to world history. I'm looking at what America did do. I think it was something like 200 to 230,000 Union troops died fighting in that war, and those are real human beings. That's a substantial number of people. I think something like $2.5 billion, this is 1860s money, was spent fighting that war. Was it all about slavery? No. The Civil War is a complex subject. Maybe we can get into that sometime. But in the end, that was kind of why the states had the rift. And pulling the states back together after that, if you're trying to keep a United States, is a difficult thing to do whenever you have certain states that totally relied on, like you're mentioning, I shouldn't say totally, but there was a lot of reliance on that labor. And so I'm just going to do it like this. I'm not from Lithuania, but my heritage is Lithuania. I just feel like looking back to, and I'm going to go back to like 1850 Lithuania. And the century before that, and try to compare that with American history, which sounds crazy to do, but the history of the world is conquest and or most people being in servitude. It sucks, and I'm not saying it's good. And the human nature, and I'll tie this in at the end why I'm saying all this. The man's nature is not always great. Not always great. And it's not uniquely American that we had slavery. So even though it's bad and America did have it, we weren't unique in that way. Slavery in all of its forms, it's just historically been around. I could go, I'll just go through a short list. Mesopotamia, Sumeria, this is over time. Ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient China, ancient India, pre-Columbia Americas, the Islamic world, medieval Europe, Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Empire, East Asia, Africa. And, from the times when we had slavery, you had the United Kingdom, France, Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, Brazil, Russia, China, India, Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. I could go on and on and on, but the form of slavery that they had in Lithuania at this same time was called serfdom. And the basic difference between that and American slavery, well, there were some big differences, but it was forced labor, and you were tied to property. You were property of whoever the Lord was of that property. In other words, you were tied to that land for the rest of your life. And in fact, any children you had were property of the Lord as well. You don't like grow out of it or move out of it. Whipping, being brutally beaten, killed, all these things were part of if you didn't do what you were supposed to be doing. That basically went away mainly because of conquest. Russia came over and took over large portions of that, and then set up their own forms, not of slavery, but you were under the under the guise of that. And of course, Nazi Germany in the 40s came in and took it over after that. And then if you were Jewish, 90% of the Jews that were there was something like 250,000 of them were just shot on the spot. They didn't take them to concentration camp. They just shot them right there dead. So the history of the world is not great. Lithuania, I only bring that up because that's my white side or whatever. I didn't live there, wasn't part of it, didn't grow up there. Frankly, pretty happy that I live in America. I didn't grow up in Lithuania. Nothing against any Lithuanian people. I mean, I have the last name. But the point here is it's going to be really, really difficult, I think, for politically for someone to tackle this, including the Sheila Jackson Lees and all, for all their speaking and pontificating. They're still going to have to convince folks that weren't around that really never owned slaves, and explain to them, hey, you're only where you are, or you've only gotten what you've gotten because of this horrible thing that happened 200 years ago or 150 years ago, whatever. And we need to take some of your tax money and give it to these people here. So I guess on some level, Alonzo, I'm open to this commission being formed and see what they come up with. But to me, what is going to happen in this whole arena is there's going to be locations like Asheville did this. There was some area in Illinois that did this, where the city decides, hey, we want to help our Black community here. We want to help businesses here. And they tie it to reparations or something like that. That to me is where the future is going to be with this. I think it's just going to be state by state, location by location. There may be states, to me, that you pay federal income taxes or whatever, but hardly had anything to do with slavery. And in fact, maybe there's descendants there that lost family members fighting in the Civil War to end it. So, or they might have had family members who were, attorneys or proponents of trying to get civil rights enacted and whatnot. These are white people. It hasn't all been Black people fighting for this or fighting these things. And one of the things I did read that I thought was kind of crazy was that the Nation of Islam and some of these things were these types of sects that were going after the things in the 70s were trying to get white churches to pay, tax them uniquely. And I guess, like I told you last time, there was people kneeling down in church in southern states who had slaves. So they weren't being very godly, but I think they were trying to do it to all churches. And I think you're just going to find that this is going to be very difficult to push across the finish line. I will say this HB 40 has gotten more and more support each time. And I wonder if it actually does get put into existence, if that will actually be surprising or maybe even frightening for the people who are pushing for it, because then they have to roll up their sleeves and really start doing political things. Stuff like stuff coming up that we're going to have to deal with, like Social Security running out of money, welfare, being much more of the budget increasing. These things, these hot button topics, like, what are we going to do with Social Security? It's running out of money. Do we cut it? Do we start changing the ages again? Nobody wants to do anything with it because it's a political hot potato. So there's been people that have done wrong, no doubt, and it happens all over the world. It's not uniquely American. I think my view is, I see it, man. My view is that as a Black person today, I think you should be thankful that you are in America and maybe not in Lithuania or somewhere else, and that most of the injustices and things like that occurred, I see you, man, occurred long before. It's not the exact same way. It's not the exact same allegory, but I feel like there's people riding in the car and the driver has to put on the brakes and someone rear ends the car, and it really didn't hurt anybody. The car needs to be fixed. That needs to be fixed. But everybody in the car is using it as an opportunity to maybe go get some extra money. My neck hurts. Feel like my back got blown out of whack. There's folks that cling to certain things, and it's either a politically helpful to them or just straight up, I want money. I want money. I'm black. This happened to people in the past, not to me, but it happened to people in the past. And everything that's bad in my life or isn't going my way is because some evil white man down in the past did all this. And I'm never going to get what's really coming to me because of all these injustices. And like I've said in most of these episodes in the past, man, America is a wonderful place filled with a lot of wonderful people. And most of them just want to get along and they want to live together, and they don't want to be picking at scabs and burning down trees over and over again. I would like to see a lot more growing trees and everybody tending to their own yard and making their yard nice. But we don't always get what we want, and I'm sure that you're going to tell me how I'm all wrong in all this, but there is still slavery in the world today, right now. And there's evil men in the world today, right now. And like I said, I would pick America over anywhere else on earth, even over Mexico whenever I get to go there and enjoy the sun and the fun and all that. It's just nothing like it, man. So, but again, I'm white. I wasn't brought up. I was brought up like I was brought up, with my belief systems, and I try to look at the world from a macro level and what's real and what's not real. Maybe you feel like this is something that will come to fruition. I think in certain states it probably will. California, maybe, or I know North Carolina, with Asheville did that. Certain states are, it's politically more palatable to the people there, and there are areas that are majority black that I don't know why they couldn't, put this up and have everybody vote on it. Now, that money has to come from somewhere. It just doesn't come out of the air. And I think, we were laughing about Trump and Doge and all that other stuff earlier, but that's a real thing. That 50 billion here, 100 billion there, whatever. That's real money, and it has to come from somewhere. And people don't like their money being wasted, or it needs to be, if it's going to be spent for something like this, let's have it clear about who gets it, why, and how much, and what all. I don't know that anybody will that feeds off of this race thing on constantly is ever going to be happy with anything, any kind of solution. I mean, America now to me is as good as it gets, but that's, I'm the white guy. So anyway, all right, that was my view on it. It's a cool topic, and I don't see it going away. It's something that can be brought out over and over and reintroduced over and over and over, whether you have good intentions or not. It's a useful thing for people politically. Sadly, I do think that a lot of this rehashing things and bringing things up over and over again that are divisive or can be divisive, there's reasons for that politically, and it motivates people to vote or to forget, hey, you voted for so-and-so, now look what they're doing to you, type thing. And nobody did nothing to you. This all happened a long time ago, and it's easy for me to point at everything but the mirror as to where my life's at. It's a lot easier. But we all have to go through life with challenges and shortcomings and things that we're born with, and stuff like that. So, but does that mean my life was like somebody in 1850s Mississippi? No. A black person? No. Hell no. So, but we did fight a war over that, spend a lot of money, and we spent a lot of money since then as well, as a nation, as a full nation, not just black people, but all people here. Anyway, that was a lot of me rambling on about it. What does Alonzo say about my take on it? Or, you know, I turn it back over to you, man.
Thank you for letting me talk.
Well, good. Thanks for letting me have the time.
All right.
I got it all out. Go ahead.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
I guess first and foremost, I mean, slavery didn't start in the 1800s. Slavery in America goes back over almost 500 years, over 400 years, almost 500 years. So, truth be told, and what I'm saying is I'm not being made up. The wealth of America was built on the backs of free black labor. So the trillions and trillions of dollars that of generational wealth that has been generated in America and distributed across white America. All right, there's a debt to be paid. All right, because you go back and look at all this wealth in America. All right, once again, it was built. Sorry, this wealth was generated, and distributed to everyone, but the people who actually did the fucking work. All right, which is the slaves. Okay, so there's a debt to be paid. Now I'm gonna be upfront, and I'm gonna say this loudly for everybody to hear. I don't think wide scale reparations will never take place in America ever. All right, so I'm not gonna fool myself into thinking that I'll be getting a check next week in regards to the debt that has been owed to Black America. Just because maybe you didn't do it yourself or your family didn't do it or whatever. You know what I mean? Um, it's not your family's debt. It's the country's debt. All right, because we built the wealth of this nation. So when you die, your debt doesn't go away. Somebody has to pay your debts. If you die today, man, somebody's got your mortgage company is not gonna be like, okay, well he's dead. Then nobody owes a debt on his home. You know, your estate has to pay that. Someone down the line is going to be saddled with your debt. Same difference. Now just push it back 400 years. It's an American debt. All right. And it's an American debt that has to be paid by America to Black America. Now, as far as how that gets distributed, who's entitled to what, and all that kind of stuff, that's not for me to say. People much smarter than you and I will have to figure that part out. How do you distribute it? How far back do you go? How do you tabulate what's owed? Once again, that is something that I don't think anyone can really put a number on that's going to be accurate. So they have to be estimations, so on and so forth. And to another one of your points that you made, that slavery is taking place in Mesopotamia and Lithuania and this, that, and and round and all. That has nothing to do with America. Okay, so whatever happened in Egypt, let the Egyptians figure out how they're gonna pay their debt. All right, all right. But as far as reparations in America, what happened like I said, what happened in Yugoslavia, it got nothing to do with what happened here. All right, and the level of servitude, you know, and how slavery was structured for white folk versus black folk, I don't give a damn. All right. All right. All I know is, as we know, all right, black folks were forcibly brought here. All right. Whips and chains, and forced to work in America for generations after generation after generation, building wealth in America. All right. And then argument I hear a lot from people is, well, my family was poor. My family couldn't own slaves. They didn't have any money. They couldn't afford slaves. Well, some people could afford slaves. Okay. So the fact that your family was flat ass broke, all right, and had to work their own land, so good for y'all. All right, but you still, even though you indirectly benefited from black slavery, because the infrastructure was built by blacks, by slaves, right? And the fact that it can't be traced directly to your family does not, once again, does not erase the debt that is owed, because there is a 400-year gap in economical gap in America that will never be made up. You guys got a 400-year head start on black folks. All right, white America did. Obviously, look at today's climate. I mean, the people in charge, white billionaires. You don't have any black billionaires making these decisions, in Washington today. Even though there are a few black billionaires, and people are reporting, hey, look, Michael Jordan's a billionaire. All right. How many billionaires are there in America? 400, 500, 1,000, 5. I don't know how many total billionaires there are. But I surmise to guess less than 2% of them are black. So we can't be like, well, Michael Jordan is a billionaire. You guys are good. Diddy is a billionaire. You guys are good. Jay-Z's a billionaire. You guys are good. Nah. You're not going to get off that easy. America. I shouldn't say white America, but America. You got a bill, pay the fucking bill. All right. If you owe Visa, pay Visa. If you owe your mortgage, pay your mortgage company. All right. America owes a debt to Black America. All right. Pay your fucking bill. Stop because right now your credit is bad with us. All right. Your credit karma score, America's credit karma score is 200. I mean, and you guys need to make you guys, man. Why am I keep saying you guys? America, all right, which includes you and I, needs to pay this bill. Now, on a personal standpoint, I really don't care, because like I said, I know it's not anything that I'm going to see. My children's children are not going to see. It's going to be one of those things get kicked down the road, infinity. Right. And like I said, there may be some communities, some states, and some cities, so on and so forth, who might step up. Like I live in Atlanta, which obviously was predominantly black, which is, the city government is run by blacks. Who knows? They might be like, hey, in Atlanta, this is something we're going to do, in Fulton County or, in Cobb County, Decatur, whatever. We don't know. However it's structured, if there is a movement finally to start paying reparations, I'm all for it, but I really don't see a cogent way to get it done that everyone's going to agree with that's fair, because you can't really put a price tag on it, because there's so much wealth in America that's been built, and there's no it's not like we're going to gather up receipts, Mike. So it's going to take a team of economists and strategists to kind of figure out and do the forensic work that comes with something of this magnitude, and say even if they did, it wouldn't be something that everybody's going to agree on, because it might be like, okay, my family, just hypothetically, might be like, okay, well, my family is entitled to $200 million, but the next family is entitled to $200,000. The next family is entitled to $2 trillion. We don't know, and it might wind up being more harm than good. Because it might just create more strife. Because it's not like, okay, well, every black family in America gets $50 million. Suffice it to say, that wouldn't be equitable. And there'll be a lot of butthurt white folks, as there was. Just think about it, man. If tomorrow every black family in America got $50 million, just imagine what that would do to the economy.
Well, they're fighting us for getting $5,000 back from savings.
That's like giving a whale a Tic Tac, man. Come on, don't even go there with me.
I'll take it, man. I'll take that money. I don't like putting money in and getting pissed away, man. If they find it's been wasted or they could save it and send it back to me, that's our money. It's not the government's money.
Okay,
That's one
but
thing I love it when they say we'll give it back, or we can't afford to do such and such, or this, like it's their. I won't even say the word, like it's their money. It's not your money. That's our money.
okay,
And and it's some of these amounts that go in are so high. I'm not talking about rep,
hold on.
reparations now. I'm just talking about in general the general fund. And it's around 6 to 7 trillion is all the government has every year to spend for everything, and they even go over that. But well, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were still going. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, since you brought it up, I mean,
Yeah.
where does $5,000 come from? I mean, how do you settle on that amount? I'm pretty sure
It's
the federal government in reality probably owes you more than $5,000.
well, the reason they came up with that number is basically they're just getting a running tab of where they've cut things that were in place that were supposed to be spent
Man,
on,
that's a prime example
and then
of
dividing it by the number of taxpayers, and then each taxpayer gets that little bit back.
that's a prime
To a guy who
example
makes
of
$1 billion, 5,000 is nothing. But to I don't know if you think that's a joke. Maybe you're doing better than me. I'll take the 5K. That sounds good. That's well over a year's worth of groceries and gas, probably.
that's not the point. I mean, that is a clear indication of the grift that's going on.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
well,
it's
yeah,
terrible.
we'll give you guys 5,000. All right, because really, if you really think about it, if every American got $5,000, I mean, that's like giving a whale a tic tac. All right, so while we're happy with the $5,000, we're running off and doing whatever we're doing with $5,000. These other people who are bilking the government are taking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. We're okay with
Yes, they
5,000,
are.
but but Musk is getting $8 million a day or something estimated.
He's not getting paid to do what he's doing for Washington. He's doing that for free. He's
The
been
point
sleeping on
the
the floor
point
at the
being
White
that
House.
I'm not going to be there's a saying, I'm sure you're probably not familiar with the saying or whatever,
What's that?
is don't sell your soul for a jelly roll. All right, and that
Okay.
$5,000 is a jelly roll. But there's a lot of ignorant folks out there who will gladly take that $5,000. All right, and it'll be gone in less than 5 days. Then you're right back where you started from. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure that Walmart's going to see an increase in television sold. The car dealerships are they'll be spitting out cars left and right that they're going to repossess 5 months later anyway. All right. So
Well,
it's just a case of a snake eating his own tail.
are you for getting tax refunds for government waste or not? I'm just curious what you're trying to
Well,
tell
let
me
me
here.
let me share some truth with you. Okay, let me share a little truth with you. All right, I currently have a tax
Well,
debt.
it's a simple
No,
question.
no, no.
I
Hold
mean,
on.
yes. Okay.
Let me answer the question the way I want to answer it. Okay. All right. I'm gonna tell some truth here. I currently have a tax debt. Okay, a 5-figure tax debt.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
So what?
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry.
No, that's cool.
I really mean that. I hate it for you. It sucks.
I'm meeting my obligation, so that's not a problem here.
That's cool.
Just a few days ago, I went to the site to make a payment, and I noticed that a portion of that debt was gone. I don't know what happened to it. I'm
Okay.
not gonna call and ask, but it was one amount. Now that amount is significantly less. And I'm
Wow.
like, what happened? I don't know what happened. All I know is a substantial amount of that debt is gone.
Hmm.
Now, does it have anything to do with what's going on in Washington right now with the IRS and everything? I really don't
Well,
know. And
if it
I'm not going to speculate because it benefits me. Now, if if since I do have a tax debt and they do this $5,000 allocation, is that where that money went already? Was I given a $5,000 credit already off of that debt, or will that
no,
$5,000 be subtracted from the remainder of my debt? Now,
I,
but like I said,
are you asking me?
no, I mean
I
that's a
can give
rhetorical
you. I
question.
can give you a.
That's a
I
rhetorical
yeah,
question that's
yeah,
going on in my mind or whatever, because I'm trying to
yeah.
figure out the machinations from my personal standpoint on how that's going to look for me. So, to me, $5,000, I really don't care. I mean, because so say if I get a $5,000 check in the mail tomorrow from the federal government, I'm gonna try and give it to the IRS anyway. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to invest that. I can't invest that or do anything with it, other than use it to mitigate my debt.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Well, mitigating debts is useful, especially if your debt is incurring 2% a month interest. I don't know what they're hitting you with, but that's the general amount that the IRS hits you with every month, which is just endless. Maybe they've given you a reprieve on that if you've come to some sort of deal with them.
I mean, I'm still fighting because I'm not gonna get into the details.
You don't have to get all this personal stuff,
yeah.
But let me wrap up that section of it. This is all theoretical. Whether or not we all get a rebate from the IRS or something, I'll believe it when I see it. In some ways, that money's better spent paying down the national debt, really. But it is America's taxpayers' money. I mean, back to the reparations.
No,
you haven't gotten any.
Well, hold on. Let me just ask you this question right quick. Ask you this question right quick. How is it really going to benefit the average American when they get this $5,000? They're going to turn right around and spend it immediately on bullshit that we spend money on every day anyway. Like I said, there will be a run on television, on flat screen TVs at Walmart. The car dealerships will be overrun.
I just gave you
I'm telling you right now, the moment if they say on April 1st the $5,000 checks will go out, I guarantee there'll be ads galore. The IRS blowout sale at your local Ford dealership. No credit needed. Just come with your $5,000 check and drive off in a brand new F-150. I guarantee you that's going to happen. All right. So in the long run, how does that benefit America? How does that benefit anyone? Because that F-150 that is going to get bought, all right, with $5,000 down with no credit, it'll be repossessed within 3 months. So how does that help America?
You have a very, very negative view of your fellow American. It's shocking at times.
Tell me I'm lying. Now you know that's going to happen. You know Walmart is going to have a sale where you can get a flat screen TV for a 100-inch flat screen TV for $1,200, and they'll be flying like hotcakes.
All right. Well, I will respond if you'll let me.
Go ahead, man.
I just gave you two tangible things that would be good for. It's literally a year supply.
And Ford.
Okay, I'll let you
go ahead.
Finish.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Gas and groceries is not a joke. It's not a joke, and not everybody who's barely making ends meet is just going to blow their money. Now, are there going to be people that do that? Sure. There's people that blow money they don't even have right now. They run their credit cards up. So one thing that is coming, and it's going to come hard, there's a lot of bubbles right now. The real estate bubble, all these people's stocks are way overvalued. There's going to be a lot of things coming. Trump's going to be a president when some of this stuff pops. It's not going to look good for him. But these things have been building up long before he got in here. How he addresses them or what he does, or if he gives people relief or has ways to give people relief when those things happen, that's good. It's good for Americans. It's good for the nation. How does that help America? When somebody buys a Ford truck, that money doesn't just go to the dealer owner. It trickles down in all kinds of ways. I mean, $5,000 being injected into every American taxpayer is an amazing thing. And this is what, day 25 of this presidency. I don't know what they're going to come up with or how much more waste they're going to find. And is this stuff really tangible? Like, well, we've cut this, we've cut that, but how does that tangibly do anything? We'll just have to see. But I feel like, are you going to go buy a flat screen television? and knocking down your debts is not a bad thing. I mean, if I had, I don't know, a $800 car payment or something, and I knew I was going to be paying that for the next however many months, 9 months, maybe I just pay that off, and there's $800 I don't have to worry about paying anymore. I don't know. It's just, there's a million ways you can use your money. Who am I to tell taxpayer Y he got $5,000 back what to do with his money? What I'm mad at is I don't get to tell the government what to do with it, and they piss it away, and I am forced to pay it, or they'll come after me. So I'm going to go back to the reparations thing and wrap that up, and let you wrap that up too as well. Just remember that America, the nation, wasn't formed until 1776, still 250 years ago. But within 90 years after that is when we ended slavery here. So, you know, and ever since slavery was put here, there's been white people and good people trying to get rid of it in this nation. It's not something that was just everybody universally liked it. I'm not exactly sure how America survived since 1860, since everything was built off of slavery. I mean, we had the Industrial Revolution and a million other things happened since then. So it's just unfair and kind of crazy to say that the entire nation was built off of a period of a certain number of years. It's easy to say it, but that's what I'm saying from the beginning of this. It's super complex. And for me, as a white guy, I don't have the emotional ties to this like you do. And I don't have any relatives. I'm a realist. And I think politically, this is only going to probably any positivity that comes from this, that commission may get formed, and it may actually come to fruition during Trump. He likes to do stuff like that, believe it or not. You know, be involved in things like that and trying to mend things. You might not believe that, but we'll see. But I don't know what they come up with. If they introduce it to me, and I hate to tell you this to your face, if they introduce it to me the way you did, in that manner, I'm probably going to have a negative reaction to it, and I think most Americans will. You know, this nation owes a debt, and you guys need to come up with the money, and this is you got all you got. It's maybe you believe that, and maybe you can sit down and cite stuff or whatever, and maybe it's true. I don't see it that way, but it's certainly going to hit wrong, and it would be like me coming at you with things that would normally look racial, or would normally look racist to you, and then just throwing it at you and hoping that you would buy into whatever it is I'm trying to do. That's a bad way of explaining it, but what I'm trying to say is this actually could be something that could be healing or whatever. It's just not going to be done that way, I don't think. And number two, there's just no money for it. We're already 30-something trillion in debt. I don't know where they're going to come up with this money. That's the problem. The political side of this, even for Sheila Jackson Lee, is going to be trying to make this more than just a racially charged political thing, when she's really getting into the meat of it and having to figure out what to do and who gets what. I think that the number that they would come up with if they actually were going to try to do this might be less than $5,000. What would be a joke to you to get back as a black man for reparations? How low? How like it has to be minimally this, or why even bother? Like, what would that be? This is what I want to try to get at with you.
I mean, it's no way to really truly monetize it. You know, to come to
It's complex.
a fair amount. But if they were to say, okay, every black descendant family gets $250K. I mean, I think that is something that's more realistic. I mean, just across the board, everybody gets $250K. Sorry, our bad. You know, we'll do better next time, and kind of leave it at
All
that.
right. I just did the math on that.
Mhm.
That would be almost the entire government budget for an entire year.
I mean, there's what, like
That
16,
means the
17
government
million
wouldn't be
blacks in
able to pay.
America. But I mean,
They
once
wouldn't be
again,
able to pay.
we're talking about black families. We're not talking about each individual.
Right. I use 20 million as the number just to be conservative. 20 million people times $250,000.
Well, no.
is
It's
five.
gonna be less than that because there's not 20 million. There's not 20 million families. Might be 20 million individuals. Eh,
Oh,
but
I think you could probably say there's 20 million
no,
families. I'm just doing.
I
I
would say
mean,
I would say more realistically, if there's 20 million people, let's say 13 million families.
but
You know,
again, you're going to be burning up. So how would you pay it over time? You pay it how and how much is? See what I'm saying? And what happens to when people die? And does their kids get it now? Only the black people now that are living now. What about the ones that are going to be born in 100 years? 10 years? Do they get money every? See what I'm saying? It's just there's no end to it. And then you've set up a precedent where
I mean,
anything that has
it
ever
could be a
gone
situation
wrong.
where that total amount gets invested, and there's dividends paid annually to those families. And that
I'm
way,
just saying
and
to
that way,
you, the
that money being
political.
reinvested. So that's a win-win.
Well, there are people who want to do this that are white that would relish the idea of this putting to bed.
I would be all for
But
investing that money, getting dividends each quarter, each year.
what's probably going to happen? To me, another idea would be cities get grants from the government to do certain things or whatever, and that's it helps certain businesses, and that way it's affecting things in a positive, tangible way. But the more you put government into things, I don't know. There's the grift and the people getting paid behind the scenes, and every dollar, only 30 cents is actually going to what it's supposed to be for, and the other 70 cents is all the people in the way exchanging hands of the money. Well, I feel like the future of this is going to be a commission, and then even after that, they're going to have a hard time coming to some kind of concrete decision. So to me, the future is going to be local, maybe even state, and local people doing local things to try to. And they'll say it specifically. This is our form of reparations, and we feel like I don't know. There may be certain, like Atlanta is a good example of that, because most of the city is run, or at least certain districts there. I mean, almost everybody's black. I mean, we talked about that in the past. I mean, it's like 90% of the city council. I'm not saying that's bad. That's who lives there. I mean, it's a reflection of the voters and reflection of everything. But why these things don't get done is because politically, even when you have a massive, uh, when you have a massive, in other words, you're controlling everything. What do you want to call it? Like I said, Biden, they could have done something when he was president. They had 2 years to try to ram something through or do something, or at least try to get that commission. They didn't even get the commission bill passed, which is crazy to me. But politically, this is a hard thing for politicians, and I think locally, and human beings doing things for one another is on a local level where they have much more control of everything, and they don't have to worry about Congress doing something. Is where this is headed. Will that be to the degree that you want, or probably black Americans have in their mind? No. And again, like I said before, yes, America is a unique nation, and we don't have anything to do with Korea or whatever. I'm just saying that we're not unique in the fact that we had slavery, and for half of the time we were over here, we weren't even America. We were still Great Britain, or whatever you want to call it. And I don't know what else to say about that. It's not good. It's not a great thing. I wasn't around. I mean, if I was here doing all that, you could point at me and go, "You did this, Mike, and you own this person, and you beat that one, and you did this, and and then you kneel down in church like you were some kind of godly man." But I have my own set of sins, but that wasn't one of them, thank God. But we'll see. I think it was a good subject. I think it was a good one. Go ahead and set up the next. I think you mentioned, and this is a kind of a good segue into it, because sometimes people just repeat things rather than go look at their own, look into things themselves. But go ahead, you set up the next subject if you don't mind, man.
Echo chambers. All right. I think echo chambers are dangerous. Why? Because there's no growth in echo chambers. So when you surround yourself with people who think just like you and regurgitate the same, for lack of a better term, bullshit that you regurgitate, there's no growth. It actually contracts your ability to think subjectively and to learn versus expand. But
Yeah.
we have become a tribalistic land of echo chambers. All right, and um, one of the reasons why I'm doing this show with you is that I made a decision to to get out of the echo chamber. And I've gotten a lot of negative backlash from people who can, know me, consider me friends, so on and so forth. Why
Right.
are you doing
Right.
a show with this guy? He's a this, and this. And one of the main reasons why is I don't think that it is not beneficial to me to surround myself with people who only think like I think, who only and
Right.
agree with everything I say. I can say the stupidest, most outlandish thing and get like. You know, um, the only way you grow and learn, okay, is by allowing yourself to learn other things, to have new information introduced to you, all right, to give yourself the options to learn and grow based on that new information that's been introduced. And I think this one reason why we have white supremacy and slavery, I mean not slavery, white supremacy and racism in America. Because say for example, if you're a white supremacist and everybody you deal with is a white supremacist, of course you're going to think that way. So when someone introduces something, and let me just give a hypothetical example. Okay, so you got white supremacists, all right, and let's say one of those white men or women falls in love with a black person, all right, they're gonna be ostracized from that group. Why? Because there's no growth in echo chambers. They won't be. The mind is not open to anything outside of what they have locked themselves into. And that
Right.
is what, especially with the advent of social media in America, that is what we've really become. We've become a society of echo chambers. And we only listen to people who agree with us. And if you don't agree with me, you're fucking wrong. Get away from me. I'll shoot you, whatever.
Right.
So I think echo chambers is an epidemic in America that really needs to be stopped. It is wholly dangerous. That's why you have people who do all these mass shootings and things that we see, is because they get so eaten up and consumed with the constant deluge of information, of misinformation, or whatever that they receive in these echo chambers. I'm not saying white folks, I'm not saying black folks, I'm just talking people. If there was I'm sure if there's a Black Panther echo chamber somewhere, okay? And if these people saying every single day ad nauseum, we hate white people, let's kill white people. I hate white people, let's kill white people. I hate white people, let's kill white people. At least one person in that echo chamber at some point is going to act on it. The next thing you know, there's going to be a shooting somewhere, all right, in Idaho, where some Black Panther went there and shot up a church full of white folk, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And that is dangerous. And I think it's not being talked about enough by people like you and I, or by mainstream America. It is not we're not seeing documentaries on it. The danger of echo chambers and the outright refusal of us as individuals to accept anything outside of our belief system. Go.
Yeah. Well, I would say to you that the tendency for people to associate with others that are similar to them or have political views, it's a human pattern. I mean, it's basic. I don't think there's anything that's unnatural about that. It does have its set of dangers, just like you explained. I mean, people who feel strongly about certain subjects, and maybe they've invested themselves heavily into that, they have a tendency to seek out or interpret or find information that confirms what they believe, and then they'll just downplay or dismiss what seems to contradict that. And there's a discomfort that comes along. I've seen it. This might surprise you, and I told you I was a DeSantis person, during the primary. He got crushed. I mean, he got absolutely, and he was the only one who was going to try to even give Trump a run for the money. But me pointing out why I picked DeSantis over Trump, or what going into this, I mean, I got some real, I wouldn't call it hate, but I the whole MAGA thing or whatever, I think I'm just pro-American. You know, I did end up going to one of the Trump rallies that came here towards the end there. And it was nice being around a lot of people who seem to feel like I do, or who, are tired of this or that. But it happens even in situations where maybe you like a specific political candidate and you're all in the same party and they'll come after you. But these things that I was bringing up about Trump are not because I hate him, or they were there to, like, these are problems and he needs to fix these because they're going to come into play if he does become president. And I just felt like that there would be less issues. But the echo chamber thing, I don't know if you could say one party has it more than the other or whatever. It's used against us, honestly, sadly. And the fact that there is, let's just pick MAGA. A lot of people that were pro-Trump, they were pro-Trump no matter what he did in some aspects. The guy could do no wrong. And that's a dangerous type thing. I think that there was, folks that were, they were ignoring Biden's cognitive whatever, even though you can clearly see it, because to actually admit that means that it's setting up some problems, and some things that you really don't want to have to talk about or get into. So, I mean, I can go back and forth with this, but the point is, like Facebook, if you're posting a lot about, I don't know, rap music, or you're posting a lot about guitars or something like, or whatever, then it tends to feed you more of that. So the algorithms that we have in our social media now, if you have bias, it knows your bias and it's going to feed you that bias, and probably not feed you the other side too much. It just isn't. And so that's a problem. YouTube sees what you engage in, and it's going to give you more of what you engage in. So in some ways, it's trying to be helpful, like, hey, this person likes this, but it's also limiting you to engagement of maybe other things. Something like our show here, if people vibe off of it, maybe you at some point you get mad at what you say, or they're getting mad at what I'm saying, like, this guy, no, but I'm not saying it with any hate, or I don't feel like I'm being illogical, or or whatever. You can take this side of it or not take it, but it's real. And ignoring the real to get into an echo chamber is really a bad thing. I think that politically this time around, a lot of people being in echo chambers for the Democrat Party instead of getting real about stuff, I think that's in ignoring what a lot of Americans are actually feeling and saying, it really cost them. And they made some boneheaded decisions about who to be their messenger and what the message is. That's my view on it. Is it going to all? Are we going to have Republicans for the next 40 years? It doesn't usually work that way. It swings pretty quickly back. But as far as echo chambers goes, the thing that disturbs me the most is when the government gets involved in what we see and how we're going to see it, like with media. If it's controlling what's going there, or telling them or they're working with the media, these are the kind of things that's not my fault or your fault. It's being done to you to force you to have. Everything is saying the same thing around you, then what else are you going to believe? That's probably not an echo chamber. It's more of a government controlled chamber. That side of it, I think, is the thing that bothers me. But people having group identity and strong beliefs and all that, I think it's useful, and I think it's human nature. But I don't know what else to say about this subject other than, if you don't expand, or at least try to understand why the other side or somebody else's views are what they are, then there's no coming together on it, or at least you can't make peace with it. I mean, I'm not going to make peace with a rattlesnake trying to bite me in the backyard. It's just, you got to remove the snake or whatever. But that's I think that's just, it's going to bite me. There's no, I mean, if I put my hand, it's going to bite me. But often the things that we're arguing about or that we've gotten so hyped up on has been created through echo chambers, and some of those echo chambers have been infiltrated by people who are not really in for our best interests, and that's on both sides. So I mean, I've changed my views on different people over the years based on what I've learned, and stuff like that. And I'm talking about Republicans who I respected at one point and don't anymore. Because you learn and you see who they are as people over time. But I think this was a good subject in that if I could say anything else about it, I've always appreciated, even though we get heated and sometimes and a lot of people don't see what we message behind the scenes, text messaging, but it's been a pretty neat 15, 20 years, whatever it is, of going back and forth with you on various subjects. And I feel like I've had some growth over that, and being more open to why people believe what they believe, or where they're coming from on something. I remember one time before this election, we were on the phone, and it might have been when Obama came out and he was kind of giving young black men a hard time. Hey, you better come out here and vote, and you better, whatever. And my view was, I think a lot of these people are going to vote for Trump. And I'm not sure I can't remember if you were agreeing with me or not. I can't remember, but it's just that the real to them became more real than the echo chamber. Telling somebody to their face, you got to do this, whenever everything around them is pushing their brain into this is the reality of things. I can see with my own eyes. So two things I will say after this: just your gut can be wrong and your eyes can see things wrong, but a lot of times your gut, when you ignore it, or you can see it with your own eyes, hey, this is bullshit. It's not always, it's usually good not to ignore that. And just consuming what you want to hear feels good. Just consuming what you want to eat all the time tastes good, but it's better to be healthy with what you're consuming and try to learn things. And most subjects are a lot more complex, and there's a lot more to them than just the simple black white. That's my last statement on it. I'll you take it from there. And I don't think this was we were very this wasn't a conflict type discussion. At least for me, it wasn't. Maybe you want to turn it into that, but I'm agreeing with you. I think echo chambers are dangerous. And I feel like that people that are in them, you can get manipulated in them pretty badly.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
I'll close out this subject by saying this: I saw myself being negatively impacted by echo chambers. All right, so that's why I made the decision a few months ago that I wasn't going to subscribe to that line of thinking anymore. Like, say for example, this past election or whatever. And obviously, I'm anti-Trump. I'm always going to be anti-Trump. I'm anti-MAGA. I will always be anti-MAGA. But at the same time, I reconcile with myself before the election that whomever wins the election is the will of the people, and I'm going to respect the will of the people, knowing good and well that if Harris would have won the election, you guys would have been screaming it was rigged, and going through the same bullshit of the last 4 years with Biden. I didn't want to. That was toxic. So I made that personal decision that whomever won is the will of the people, and I'm leaving it at that. I didn't want Trump to win. I'm mad that Trump won, but Trump won. All right, and I respect the fact that he got more votes, all right, than Harris. All right, he earned it, whether I like him or not, whether I like his followers or not. He fucking earned it. They fucking earned it. And to the victor go the spoils. So everything that's happening now, all right, we asked for it. We voted for it. We got to stick with it. We got to live with it, whether it benefits us or not. And I'll just leave it at that. but echo chambers suck, and there is no growth in echo chambers. If you're in an echo chamber, be smart like me and get the fuck out of it. All right. The last subject that we're going to discuss. I mean, we're an hour
Sure.
and 12 minutes in, so sorry for getting long winded, y'all.
No, man.
The last
We've been
subject that we
averaging
will
about
touch
this
on.
long.
So,
We've been averaging about this long anyway. This is normal.
okay,
I
all
get
right.
to talking, and I like if a subject brings us into more discussion. It's always good, man.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the last subject that we're going to discuss, something that happened a couple weeks ago now. It's been a couple of weeks. Is the Super Bowl halftime performance by Kendrick Lamar and the shitstorm of controversy that follows it. Now, you said earlier before we started recording that from a white person's perspective, you really didn't kind of get what was going on, the whole hoopla and the uproar between him and Drake and all this kind of stuff. Well, the Super Bowl performance really wasn't a Drake thing. The only thing that was Drake about it is Not Like Us, obviously, which is the. Are you familiar with the term ether?
I mean, I know what it means in terms of like scientific, or if it's being used as an imagery, like drift off into the ether. But no, probably not. And probably don't get 90% of what you're going to be saying here, which is, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just don't,
Nah, in hip hop terms, if you get ethered, that means you got put to sleep in your beef.
Okay.
Your rap beef. Okay. So the
Makes
song
sense.
"Not Like Us" by Kendrick Lamar ethered Drake, and it put their beef to sleep, put their beef to bed.
Okay.
In other words, Kendrick Lamar caught a body, and that body was Drake. Anyways, but the performance at halftime wasn't just Not Like Us, of course. It was a various songs that he did. He was the only performer at the Super Bowl, and there was a lot of different controversies involved with that. One of the controversies was it was in New Orleans. And a lot of folks were upset that Kendrick Lamar, who's from Los Angeles, all right, gets the gig in New Orleans when you got Lil Wayne, who is from New Orleans. A lot of folks felt that Lil Wayne should have had that spot. But Rock Nation, Jay-Z, is the one who they are tasked with the Super Bowl, the halftime performances and booking those and everything. So obviously it was a smart strategic move, because right now Kendrick Lamar is the biggest hip hop artist in the world, not just in America, but in the world. So you had the right person doing it. Unfortunately, just geographically, it may have been a bit of a swipe at Lil Wayne, but Lil Wayne is nowhere near the magnitude of Kendrick Lamar. Okay.
Huh. Okay.
Now with the halftime performance, there was a disconnect on along racial lines, because white folks, for one, didn't know what the fuck he was saying. All right. And for two, didn't really get the imagery and didn't get what the message that he was sending. All right. And I'm not going to take too much time here, because if I break it down, try to explain to everyone, it'll take another hour or so. So I'm not going to fool myself into thinking that. But the Cliff Notes version of it, is a metaphor for America and America's relationship with Black America, going back to the whole reparations thing, how America was built on the backs of Black people. Okay, so and a lot of the imagery in his performance spoke towards that. We got it as a people, but the takeaway is that white folks just saw some dude rapping and they don't understand what he was talking about, what he was saying, or how he was saying it. And the only song they recognize is Not Like Us, because you can't walk 5 feet without hearing it. All right, but they don't understand. They don't understand the Crip Walk. That a lot of folks got mad at Serena Williams for sea walking, Crip walking. Okay, all right. So they just like, well, that's a gang thing and all this kind of stuff. It's a fucking dance. Okay. Blood, Crip walk, just like Crips Crip walk. Okay. Or sea walk.
Right.
So that whole portion of it was blown way out of proportion. All right. And the performance by Kendrick, it was obviously Black people loved it. And I think white folks felt slighted because the Super Bowl is an American event. All right. And a lot of folks felt ostracized. White America, my takeaway, I'm not saying this is true, but my takeaway is that white America felt ostracized by that performance because they, for one, they had nothing. It didn't speak to them, all right, and it did not represent them at all. So it's basically like you're getting a history lesson at the Super Bowl. So was it appropriate? Yes and no. It was appropriate because because the Super Bowl is the most watched event in America every year. So the exposure and Kendrick being able to relay his message resonates. Now, it may not have pleased a certain segment of society because one, they didn't understand it, for two, it didn't speak to them, and three, it was like more of an indictment for those who did understand. Is more of an indictment, right? Maybe even putting them to shame because of the imagery and the message that Kendrick was portraying in his performance. Me personally, I was kind of indifferent towards it. I mean, it was a great performance, but it's like I said, since I got it, I mean, my mind's eye is like, okay, I've seen this a billion times before in a billion different ways, and it's not going to move the needle. At the end of the day, it may boost his popularity because that's what the Super Bowl performance usually does. It boosts their Q rating because they don't get paid. I don't know if you know or not. They don't get paid for that performance.
Right.
But the exposure and the endorsements and everything, and the boost in record sales and everything that comes with it is way more than anything they could possibly get paid for that performance. So that's an investment by the artist. All right. And every artist who performs during the Super Bowl, they see a bump in their overall Q rating and revenue and endorsements and that kind of stuff. So in that regard, it did great for Kendrick. But I think in the long run, it did not move the needle when it comes to white people. If anything, it ostracized them even more, and maybe it even drew a darker line between the two. Especially from a standpoint of, I guarantee you, I'm guarantee you, I'm pretty certain that next year performer at the Super Bowl is going to be Morgan Wallen or somebody like that. I guarantee you it'll be a country artist. I promise
It
you
might
that.
be.
I promise you it'll be a country artist performing next year at the Super Bowl. But I'll go and send it to you from there.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know a lot of his songs. There was times where I really couldn't understand him. I had seen pictures of him, and obviously a couple of the songs, were big enough to be on, hip hop music, and sometimes lyrics, they're not ready for radio. Is the best way of saying it. Mainstream radio, you can't put it on, in the waiting area at the doctor's office. But I mean, I listen to other music that is not appropriate for that either. So I didn't, but I do remember certain things. I mean, he was a lot shorter. I mean, he was short. I'm not picking on him. I don't mean to sound like I'm picking on him. That struck me, man, he's a small guy. I didn't realize he was that small. He did have the gigantic letter A, the little A, like it was a little, I mean, the chain he had on. I don't know if that represented something. I mean, because I was like, does it have something to do with his music, a song? I've heard 3 different things about what it could have meant, but that means nobody knows what it meant unless he says what it meant. I remember the dancers all wearing patriotic colors. Now, if they were dissing America, I didn't feel that. Didn't see that at all. And some of the coordinated movements were pretty cool looking. Stuff like that. The visual aspect of it. I mean, at one point, I think they formed it looked to me like it was a PlayStation controller with the X's and the triangles. And I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
If that meant something negative America or was dissing something. Now that I was like, I wonder what that means, because I have no idea. I mean, I really don't know. The Seawalk thing with Serena Williams, I was like, hey, that's Serena Williams, and I just saw her dancing. I didn't go, this is pro gang or anything. I just saw her dancing. It didn't. She actually was dancing better than some of the performers. Actually,
it's not her first time doing the sea walk in public. She would do it in her tennis matches. So,
well, I mean, we talked about Snoop Dogg a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I'm not saying that the Crips lifestyle is something anybody should be in, and I'm not glorifying them at all. but people, there are aspects of cultural aspects that come out of inner city or whatever else you want to call it that creep into the everyday of black culture. Some white people. I mean, the way I saw it on Facebook, if this is a white guy scrolling through my whatever, is that a lot of people just didn't know what to make of it, and then there was I would call those the 40 and up people like me that just probably don't listen to that very much, and then you had like younger people that are that I know that are white or whatever that were totally perfectly okay with it and probably understood a lot more about it than than like what you're saying. A lot of people understood more about it what you're saying. I didn't see anybody that was white that was looking at it like this is an indictment against America and reparations and all that. We didn't go down that path, and I haven't really even read anything about that. So if that was what his purpose was, or if he said that, and he was open about it, then my views on the halftime show would probably be a little different. Other than just it wasn't for me. I wouldn't say it wasn't for me. Maybe it wasn't even for me. Maybe it was for who he was wanting it to be for. But what I'm saying is not what I would normally. I wouldn't go watch a Kendrick Lamar concert, not because I'm racist. It's just not something I listen to. And I would tell you now that this back and forth with the, I just in case we were going to go into the rift or whatever between him and Drake, these jabs and things, they're very, very, very subliminal, or at least they're deep. It's not like just, hey, I don't like your fat head, or you have a big nose, or your sister's a hoe. I mean, I guess sometimes they'll say stuff like that. It's more, it's more cerebral. So it seems to me like the Lamar guy is a little more like ninja cerebral about the way he does stuff. It's more of a deeper, cut. Whereas Drake's stuff is just, I don't know, he's just real commercial. I mean, he's on the radio and he's more, it's more commercialized. So that's the dichotomy between the two as far as their music goes. That's what I say. I would say, so you say Lamar is bigger than Drake. Is it because of this feud and he won the feud, so now
Well, he
he's bigger?
overwhelmingly won the beef, and I mean it's having a negative impact on the way Drake is being viewed now, especially by the hip hop community. And once you lose your
Okay,
credibility with the hip hop community, it's a wrap. Okay,
I got you.
so really Drake is done.
Well, it seems like he's been calling him out for his credibility for a while now, and about whether he writes his own lyrics, and he's just commercial, and he's not
Drake
true
got
to his
bodies,
roots.
man.
I don't know anything about where these guys came from other than I knew that Lamar was from Compton, West Coast, whatever. But I
Drake is
didn't.
Canadian, by the way. I don't know if you know that or not.
Okay,
He's
yeah.
Canadian.
So I mean, sometimes these guys come in and they're pretenders. I mean, a lot of there's country artists like that. They take pictures of themselves bass fishing and shooting guns and all this and that, and I'm like, man, I know this guy. This is so full of shit. And I mean, sometimes we all laugh about it in the background or whatever, or I don't know, man. I've lived on farms, I've been around farms, I've driven the big Bubba trucks and shotguns, I still shoot guns and all that, but you see my Facebook, I'm not like trying to pretend I'm some kind of like maybe you still think I'm a redneck from my posts or whatever, but I don't feel like that I go down that path or whatever. I'm just being me. I think that's a better way to be. But if you're trying to reach a certain audience or whatever, the Super Bowl next year, I don't have a clue what they're doing. Is what's his name still involved in it, or did they drop him from
Jay-Z?
being involved in it? Yeah.
Yeah, he's still running it. Yeah.
Well, um, let me put it to you this way: there's been a string of really kind of like it's a tough gig being in the Super Bowl. I think. I mean, because it's not going to please everybody.
I mean, a
And
couple years ago, you had Katy Perry, you had Justin Timberlake. I mean, so it's been diversity, you know.
yeah, and and the guy from The Weekend did one, wasn't it? Wasn't it
Yeah.
him? He did one. I don't know that dude's name. You had Aerosmith come out there one year with Run DMC. I mean, he may not be as big, but if they'd have brought Lil Wayne out, and then he's collabed with so many people, it could have been a really kind of a cool thing where you could bring in a bunch of other of other artists that collab with. I feel like more white Americans would have probably known more of his music, but I don't know that I hated the halftime show. It didn't resonate with me, and it's probably a cultural thing, man. And that's just how it is. It's just how it is, man. And the NFL went that direction this year, and for a lot of Americans who did get it, they probably really enjoyed it. I thought it was a clean halftime. They didn't have
I think
boobs
Jake
out
Fromm
and a
didn't
bunch
get
of
it.
half naked people or whatever. It had American themes. At least it looked American. I liked a lot about it like that. Now, if you're telling me they were doing all this to like picket America, then F that guy. That's the way I look at it. But but I didn't catch all that. So I mean, I would love to hear somebody somewhere where Kendrick Lamar admits to that. I mean, if you did that on purpose, then own up to it, big boy. Let's hear about it. Come out and speak about it. I would love to hear that. You just seem to have a no holds barred going off on Drake. Then come on out and say it. I mean, just come on out and say it. I hate America, or I think America sucks, and get up on stage in the NFL and do that. Why you got to be all like hidden in the background and scared about it? So I don't. Maybe people are seeing some of that what they want to see. I don't know, but personally, it wasn't for me, and I'm not trying to sound racist or bad or mad about it. There's been other half times with white people that it wasn't for me either. You know what I'm saying? Just like, wow, that was it's not that great. I mean, the Prince one is hard to beat. Maybe that's the number one. It's gonna be hard to beat that one,
Yeah,
man.
it's number one.
It just resonated with everybody.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of them. I think wasn't Bruno Mars in one of those one year?
Yeah, he was.
I mean, he's just really good and just super entertaining. His songs are great. But, is that maybe Black America doesn't like Bruno Mars as much as white America does? I don't know. I mean, do we have to like go down this path every time? That Super Bowl halftime show was not for everybody.
No, it wasn't.
And some people were vocal about it. And if there was anti-American themes in it, I didn't see it. I mean, the Weeknd guy looked like to me he had satanic themes in it. That's what I was seeing, but maybe I'm just seeing what I want to see. You know what I mean? I thought he did good though. I think he's a great performer and his songs are catchy and stuff. But I don't know. Trying to find drama with everything is just kind of whatever. I think a lot of people, like I know my girl, when she found out that he was calling out Drake for pedophile and all that kind of stuff, because he really did do that on stage, she was like, well, good for him. She actually liked that, supported it. If this is calling out somebody if that's true and he's calling him out, then she was like, yeah, I like that. And she enjoyed the dancing and all that stuff. So, I mean, I don't know. That was my take on it, man. I don't know where this diss is going. If you like you said, if he put him to sleep, then I guess it's over.
Yeah, it's a wrap. It's been over for a while
it's
now.
probably better once you get knocked out. It's probably better to go shake his hand and say, okay, man, I'm going to move on and pick a different fight or go some other direction rather than go down this again. But just like I said, the thing that stuck out the most for me was just how small. I don't know. You could see it. I mean, a lot of times they can hide that. He just looks so tiny compared to the dancers and everything.
Small packages.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he's the biggest thing in hip hop, who am I to say anything?
Yeah, he's the guy
I
right
didn't
now.
even realize he had gotten that big. I knew he was a big name, but I didn't know he was that big.
Yeah, he's number one right now.
It's not on my rotation to listen to. I mean, I listen to a lot of stuff, believe it or not, but it's probably going to be more what is mainstream. I've heard a lot more Drake songs. I'm not saying I'm pro Drake either. I've heard a lot more, and it's just because of culturally the things that I'm around. I guess my musical echo chamber, if you want to put it that way, it tends to be that. And some people they only going to listen to Willie Nelson, and that's it, or stuff that sounds like Willie Nelson, and everything else is garbage.
Yeah,
I don't listen to that, but I'm just saying, that's just how people are. So kudos to you though. I mean, and a lot of times I see you post stuff. I think it was with your daughter. Kind of listens to some heavier rock type stuff, or it seems to. Maybe I got that wrong. But and you sometimes will post a Neil Young song. I'm not even a big Neil Young fan, but I'm not even a big fan. But I mean, I do think a lot of his music is good. And you have a diverse palette, and I think that's good.
Neil Young is the white Prince.
Is he?
Yes.
No way.
Yes. His discography, man, is freaking ridiculous. So if you ever
Okay.
delve into it, man, good Lord. His
I'll
I
have
mean,
to look
because
into it.
Prince is legendary for his content. He had
Right.
his vault full of music. Neil Young's content is just as vast as Prince. And I don't know if you know this or not. I'm not going to turn this into a Neil Young
Oh, that's okay.
conversation,
That's okay.
but I don't know if you know this or not. But Neil Young was, I think, the first white artist signed to Motown. He was in a band with Rick James back in the
No.
1960s.
Okay.
Yeah, a band called the Minor Birds. They had a
Okay.
they had a deal with they had a record deal with Motown. A lot of folks don't know that about Neil Young, but yeah,
Was was he singing or playing guitar, or he was
both,
one of the singers?
both. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I
Interesting.
think they recorded an album. I don't know if the album ever got released because Rick James was a deserter from the army. I think he got caught when
Yeah. 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 Right.
and he had to deal with that. So Neil's like, I'm out of here. So he moved on to another label, and then he started his career and everything. But yeah, Neil Young was signed to Motown. He was in a band with Rick James.
Yeah. Well, man, Rick James, what a life.
Yeah,
Kind of fun to kind of go over that guy's whatever.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Yeah. That shit was hilarious, man.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, we're going to call it a wrap here as well. I think some of these subjects that are coming up, you brought some of that information to me earlier
Yeah, we got
today,
some
and I'm looking
doozies for the
forward
next
to.
show, man. So
Yeah.
be ready.
So, hopefully, let us know what you think, what your thoughts on reparations are, and
Echo chambers.
maybe try not to, maybe this week make an effort to dip your toe in some different waters, whatever that might be, musically, or hanging out with some different people, or
Stop fucking up, in
giving
other
something else
words.
a try. Yeah, and uh, maybe listen to what people are actually trying to do rather than just have an instant turn off. It's always a good thing, just to accept, maybe you can understand what they're trying to accomplish here. It's not always just hate or, some evil thing or whatever else. And if you're looking for people to tell you what you want to hear, there's a lot of people that will do that, and not all of them are your friends. Just tell you that. So, all right, Lonzo, it's good to see you again, buddy.
Same, Mike.
Looking pretty good. Yeah, that margarita's giving you a nice glow right now. I feel kind of like I need to go get me one right now.
Delicious.
Maybe we'll have that be part of the show. We'll just have margaritas the whole time, and we'll see how long we can drone on. Then it'd probably go into 2-hour territory at that point.
Good idea.
But I always enjoy hanging with you, man. This is black, white, left, right. Good to see you guys here, and y'all come in and tune in. I try to have the next one out maybe within 10 days. I think I'm gonna try to make a goal to get the next one out within 10 days. But again, tell us what you think. Tune in with us. We are getting more and more people being added on, by the way. Alonzo, every day there's another 2 or 3 people joining in on our on just the Facebook page.
Let's go viral, y'all. Let's go viral. So
yeah, so if you enjoyed this, man, send a little link on your page for us, man. Every little bit helps, and trying to get the word out. So thanks again for the support, and we'll catch you next time. Love y'all. Peace out.